So becoming trauma informed, or the desire to become trauma informed, sure, that could be a trauma response. There's the fawn response, which comes to mind most strongly when I think about that, when we want to please others so much and we reach for anything we can to help ourselves be perceived as perfect or feel more secure, confident, solid in ourselves. Not all trauma responses are bad, right? Most of them make sense in different ways, but there can be an activation that comes up to be like, I want to be the absolute best, or I just am so terrified that I could hurt anyone. And so I need to be trauma informed. I have to be honest, I created the entire Creating Safer Space course out of a trauma response. I was so sick and tired of feeling activated every time I went to a group space. And I said, I'm creating this. And my inner 13-year-old created that course with help from the rest of me. But the original impulse was, I'm fucking terrified and I'm going to create this. And I'm scared for others who are less resourced than me. And I'm going to put the information out there. That doesn't mean that there aren't layers and nuances to trauma-informed care. That doesn't mean we're fawning when we're offering it. It could be like, okay, that was an initial impulse. And then we learned that the more regulated we get, the more we're actually tending to our people, not in a trauma response. I think a lot of people have this story and idea that when we're trauma informed, we're just very sweet with people and we tiptoe and we don't get to be ourselves and we're soft and everything gets watered down and we have to make sure every single person gets exactly what they need. That's not what trauma informed care is. I know you all know that, but it is worth saying again that when we are actually embodying trauma informed care, once we get our foot in the door and start practicing it and learning it, we get regulated, we get resource. Our own trauma begins healing because we're dedicated to being that safe enough space, being a kind home base for our clients so that we're not adding stress on top of stress, so that we're not re-traumatizing, so that we're aware that people come in with their own histories and we're not exacerbating those unconsciously by doing things that could really be easily learned when we become trauma informed. Once we're in, we can absolutely make grounded, regulated choices around how we tend to people, how we care for people. But I absolutely would disagree with the statement that being trauma informed is a trauma response. I think that it could be anything at all. And I think that statement comes out of somebody who might be in a trauma response themselves, experiencing a lot of insecurity in themselves and feeling like they need to be puffed up to not feel the vulnerability and tenderness of what it means to really take time to care for people in a welcoming, safe enough, secure way. And that happens a lot, right? I don't want to have to look at this. I don't want to have to adapt or change my process. I don't want to have to learn anymore. And so we can puff up around things or promote false information because we just aren't interested or whatever. It hit something in us. And a lot of times, most of the time, I hear people who are interviewing me to do a training for them or something like that and say, well, just so you know, my people are really self-responsible and you don't have to coddle them. And I'm like looking at this person and all I can do at this point is have compassion for however they were raised and treated. Because I'm like, you don't actually have to be that self-responsible around me. And I don't care if I coddle you or not. Like, I'm going to care about you and be gentle with you if that's what the moment calls for. If you have a child part here, I'm not going to expect you to be in your integrated adult self-responsible place. Obviously, it's nice when we're in those resource places, but there is no way I can expect everyone to do that all the time. And I think it's actually violent to expect that. So when people think that, I think they're working with some of their own insecurities and maybe past trauma. The statement, is everything trauma? No, I went for a hike on Tuesday. I wasn't in a trauma response. I'm sitting here with you right now. I feel really not in a traumatized experience. I believe what that person was referring to is around if someone's coming to us trying to work through something that feels challenging in their life, if they're coming for healing or growth, what I'd like to think that person is saying is that trauma is everywhere. It's in everybody. We're all working with trauma all of the time. And I think they were saying it's like kind of a catchphrase, but I want to reframe it and be like, no, actually, we are so lucky these days to know about trauma, to be able to care about it, to understand that it is coming up a lot in us and in our clients and in the people that come into our workshops and spaces. Sure, it is a lot trauma when we're holding healing and growth spaces, but it's not all trauma. I wouldn't do what I did if it was all trauma, because it would mean that what we're doing isn't working. It would mean that what we're doing isn't helping people expand their capacity, expand their ability to feel fully expressed, to be deeply vulnerable, to be connected in a genuine and authentic way, to be right here and right now in the present moment, to be able to have agency in the world and go out and get what they need and want. So no, I don't think it's all trauma, because when we're even in healing and growth spaces, there has to be space for being resourced and regulated. That's how we stitch those moments together so that it's not all trauma all the time. I think I was pretty much all trauma all the time throughout my 20s and 30s. But, healing happens, growth happens. So no, it's not all trauma, in my opinion and experience. If I'm trauma informed, can I still be naughty? This question reminds me of when I first started practicing meditation a lot, like month-long silent retreats. And I was really not down with the idea that if I meditated this much, would I really have like no personality? Would I be boring? Would I just speak in this fluffy voice all the time? Would everything feel soft and not intense or exciting? And what I have found through meditation, for example, is that the more I'm with myself in a kind and connected way, I'm sure many of you have felt this too, the more of my personality gets to come out. Because the more I'm connected and here, the more I feel secure and safe in myself, the more I can be expressed, the more these layers of myself that were kind of rigid or covering me, who I am, come off, and I can be more fully available to you as I'm present. So when I'm trauma informed, I am also able to do that because I'm secure and steady in myself. I feel supported within, and I have a circle of support around me. And I'm able to implement the tools and skills I know how to use to help people who have trauma, who show up in my spaces. And I also trust myself that if something happens that doesn't go well, I can handle it, that I will show up and create a repair. I'll have a conversation. I will lean in. And so that gives me the ability to be edgy, be naughty, swear, be crass, not be tiptoeing around people that I might be hurting someone's feelings or tripping up someone's trauma or sending them into activation, because I already know, because I'm trauma informed, that I will. And so I just get to let myself out. But when I do that from a regulated place, people are going to feel that I'm available for helping meet their needs, helping support them in those ways. So I think the answer to all of those questions are right there for you.